Good afternoon, welcome to Camnet TV Midday News. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. The headlines. HAKAINDE HICHILEMA disappointed with government's pace to fight COVID-19. KAMBWILI pleads with ECZ to lift the campaign suspension imposed on the UPND and the PF. Join me with the Midday News in detail after this commercial.
Our achievements in the health sector. As the Patriotic Front government, we have recruited and deployed 27,000 nurses and other health personnel across the country to provide the much-needed healthcare, including the fight against COVID-19, child healthcare, as well as maternity care to all parts of the country. Vote for Edgar Chagwa Lungu and the PF that have brought you change.
And now the Midday News in detail. Speaker of the National Assembly Patrick Matibini has described as harsh judgment for people to claim that Chief Justice Irene Mambilima left a mess in the judiciary system before her death. Speaking after signing the Book of Condolences at the Supreme Court, Dr. Matibini states that the judgment is unfair as she was holding a challenging position. He adds that the judiciary, just like any other institution, has got its own flaws and if once noticed, must be corrected. Meanwhile, NGO-CC chairperson Mary Mlenga says late Chief Justice Mambilima made the women's movement proud in the Zambia's judicial system.
The Speaker of the National Assembly has described the late Chief Justice Irene Mambilima as a role model to the legal fraternity who must be remembered for the good service she rendered to the country. The Speaker, who spoke to the media shortly after signing the Book of Condolences at the Supreme Court Friday morning, says it is a harsh and unfair judgment for people to claim that Justice Mambilima left a mess in the judiciary system before her death.
I think personally that judgment is not fair. These are very challenging positions, and I believe that she acquitted herself well, and I believe that we have a well-functioning judiciary that the citizens of this country can depend on and rely on for dispensation of justice. Like in other institutions, there are flaws. In any case, that's why we even have an appellate system. It recognizes that inherently there will be flaws, and whatever flaws are met, they are to be corrected, including in the highest court of the land. So I think that's a very harsh judgment, and I do not stand.
And the Speaker, who joined the long list of people signing in the Book of Condolences in honor of the late, says Justice Mambilima demonstrated good leadership quality during or at time in the judiciary system.
First and foremost, she was a very astute lawyer and judge, as a matter of fact. She was also a very good leader. She was very gentle in her approach and spirit. But as much as she was gentle, she was also fair. That I can confirm. I think she was a model. She was a model for lawyers and judges alike.
Meanwhile, the non-governmental gender organization coordinating council, NGO-CC, described her as a woman who fought against all odds. Speaking at the funeral house in Osaka, the organization chairperson states that Justice Mambilima was a person who made it in the legal fraternity.
Mambilima came as a shock to us as NGO-CC. She held a very high position, prestigious position, and to us she was a woman of integrity, a woman who delivered on her mandate in a way that pleased all of us as a nation. And her passing on has really shocked us. We as NGO-CC continue to advocate and talk about and encourage women to participate in these leadership positions, and I'm sure you know that at this point in time we have really been encouraging women to participate in the forthcoming elections. But for us, I think leadership is not just about politics. Leadership, I think, cuts across all institutions. And late Justice Irene Mambili was actually one of those people, women that found herself at that top leadership, and so losing her at this point in time is devastating.
The Chief Justice died on Sunday, the 20th of June 2021, in Egypt after falling ill while on official duty. Her burial will take place on Saturday and will be preceded by a valedictory session at the Supreme Court and a church service at Cathedral, after which the body will be taken to Lusaka's Memorial Park for a burial. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Former National Democratic Congress leader KAMBWILI has charged that it is not necessary for innocent people to shed blood for the purpose of some individuals going into government. Speaking with Camnet TV in an exclusive interview, Dr. KAMBWILI states that the Electoral Commission of Zambia took the right stance in suspending campaign for the two parties because of political violence, but should now reconsider its decision. He has since appealed to ECZ to consider lifting the suspension imposed on two major political parties, namely the Patriotic Front and the United Party for National Development, stating that the two have learnt their lesson.
11 days has passed since the Electoral Commission of Zambia suspended all campaigns for two major political parties in the country, namely the Patriotic Front and United Party for National Development, in the selected part of the country, namely Lusaka, Mpulungu, Namwala and Nakonde. The move by the Commission was triggered after a spate of political violence involving the two parties. The Commission had announced this during a media briefing in Lusaka on the 15th of June 2021. It further indefinitely suspended roadshows for all political parties and independents, citing escalating cases of COVID-19 infections. Now, with only 3 days remaining for the Commission to review its decision, has announced by ECZ Chief Electoral Officer Patrick Shindano that after 14 days, the Commission will review its decision. Many calls are being made for ECZ to lift the suspension for the two political parties. Former opposition leader for the National Democratic Congress, Dr. Kamli says the move by the Commission was a step in the right direction, but now appeals that the ban is lifted as he thinks the two political parties have learnt their lesson.
ECZ has a responsibility. When they have spoken against something and it just continues to do what they've done. Because you cannot continue on a trajectory of violence during elections. So for me, it is a lesson well learned to the involved political parties and also other political parties that it does not pay to be violent during elections. I can only appeal to ECZ to now consider lifting that ban, because I think the people have learned their lessons. For me, I support the move because you cannot allow innocent people to shed blood for the purpose of some people going to government. It is not necessary. No Zambian should be allowed to die or shed blood.
And commenting on the peace accord signed by political parties denouncing violence, Dr. Kamli says there's no need for political parties to go into signing of peace accord, as it is a matter of all political parties to restrain themselves from any act of violence.
There's not even any need to go into those things, signing peace accords. It is just a question of restraint. Every political party, every individual must restrain themselves from acts of violence. Why should we even be going to an extent of signing peace accords? We should be naturally peaceful ourselves. If we are peaceful, there will be no reason for signing peace accords. And these peace accords we have seen from previous elections is that they are usually on paper. What is important, Mutima, and make sure there is no violence. Those who are doing violence, practicing violence, must be condemned in the strongest term that they deserve. So it's a step in the right direction to do an accord, but what is important, like I've said, is that people must just avoid the violence totally, altogether.
Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
In other news, United Party for National Development UPND Alliance presidential candidate HAKAINDE HICHILEMA has expressed disappointment at what he terms as misguided fight against COVID-19. Mr. HICHILEMA notes that it is worrisome that Zambia still has a shortage of testing kits and limited enforcement to preventive measures due to shortage of frontline workers. And Mr. HICHILEMA says Zambia should take leap from Zimbabwe with regards to its vaccination campaign, which he says is 10 times better than Zambia. The opposition leader says government should immediately change how it is handling the pandemic before many lives are lost. He has since called for the deployment of medical personnel to beef up the low numbers of frontline workers fighting the pandemic.
What the government, today's government, can and should do now, not tomorrow. What the PF government must do now includes the following. Very, very important. Re-employ the doctors that you have fired. Incentivize our medical workers. Enforce the preventive measures fairly and evenly. Stop abusing COVID funds now, not tomorrow, so we can save lives. A PF party membership cannot mean immunity to breaking the rule of law. Should not be like that. Not when lives are at stake, lives of many, many dear citizens. Someone's daughter, someone's son, someone's nephew, someone's cousin is dying out there unnecessarily. Take the money you are wasting on billboards, private jets, and vanity projects, and go and buy critical drugs, buy personal protective equipment and testing kits now to save lives. Most importantly, buy vaccines, just as our neighbors are doing. I wish to be clear. My team and I are on hand to offer assistance and support. When it comes to COVID, there is no UPND. There's no PF. There's no other political party differences that must be allowed to prevail.
That news item brings us to the end of Camnet TV Midday News, but before we go, here are the headlines once again. HAKAINDE HICHILEMA disappointed with government's pace to fighting COVID-19. KAMBWILI pleads with ECZ to lift the campaign suspension imposed on the UPND and PF. Thank you for joining me. I am Precious Mzeya Sakaleji. Good afternoon.